What's up, y'all? It's been an eventful day. It has been an eventful day, but I was happy that today I got to actually finally see the challenge live because I have other obligations that have run into Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is when it comes on, which have not allowed me to see the challenge live at all this season. 7 episodes, and I watched all of them on Thursday. It was interesting because actually the Thursday schedule with all stars airing on Thursdays at 3 o'clock in the morning Eastern time on Paramount Plus was perfect for me because I was having trouble staying asleep for the night. And I don't have anything to do on Thursday mornings, obviously, at 3 o'clock in the morning. So when I would wake up and I couldn't sleep, I just throw on the challenge All Stars, and I was usually one of the first people to see it. I would usually see it right at 3 o'clock on the dot, but now with it being on Wednesdays, and I can't usually see it live on Wednesdays, that sucks because I like watching it live. And today I had a schedule opening, so I was able to see it live. Very happy about that. So again, as I've been saying every week, the challenge is back. The challenge is back. And I think part of the reason why the challenge is back is because some of the people who made the challenge what it is today are back on the challenge. And one of those people is Jordan. I'm not even mad at the heroes edit that Jordan has been getting this season because I feel like at least half of the episodes they've had something about Jordan not giving up, something about Jordan's handicap with his hand, something about Jordan being a warrior and a fighter. They showed like Jordan coming close to winning the dailies. They showed a lot of Jordan stuff. And this episode was no different. Towards the beginning of the episode, it showed another Jordan montage and how Anissa was talking about how much he's grown and changed. And I think she might have said she couldn't imagine being with another partner or something like that. I don't remember. I just know they've made a lot of sappy Jordan stuff. But I'm not mad. I'm actually not mad. I never thought I would say that. I'm not mad at all the Jordan love and how they are trying to repaint the image of Jordan in our minds and hearts. Because we know that Jordan was the villain at one point. So it showed Jay saying that he's worried about Jordan and Anissa winning the daily. Foreshadowing. Y'all know by now they keep doing this. Foreshadowing. So Jay is basically like, we're effed if we don't win because they have now put themselves in a position. I think they won maybe three dailies or something like that. I want to say three. It could be two, but I want to say three. And that means that they made a lot of selections and they have a lot of blood on their hands, therefore. And not a lot of other people do have blood on their hands because not a lot of people have been winning the dailies. A couple of them have won one daily early on, but they're the ones who have been winning the most recently. And Jordan and Anissa, we knew that if Jordan and Anissa won a daily, they were going down. So I was here for that. I was hoping that that was going to be the case. But we're not at the daily yet. So, spoiler alert for anyone who has not watched the episode, turn this off now because this will be a spoiler. But I haven't spoiled anything yet because I'm not at that point yet. So now we are at this birthday bash that Nanny throws for Johnny Bananas. Johnny Bananas is 40. I don't know about y'all, but whenever I see these people who I've been watching for so many years get to these milestones, I'm like, man, I am not far behind. I'm not like 20 looking at Bananas turning 40. I'm looking at him and I'm like, in another 5 years, I'm going to be right there where he is. We're not getting any younger. Bananas has oddly mostly been just floating through the season. He has not been causing any real drama or anything like that. There's not really been a storyline that's really super centered around him. He's been kind of playing a Darrell-ish game. Speaking of which, are Casey and Kenny even in the game? Is there a Casey and Kenny sighting? Because it's like, I know they're there. I see them once in a while, but I'm like, are they really there, or is this just an illusion? And that's a scary thing to think about, that they've come this far. You don't see them in anything. You don't see them talking. I'm starting to forget what Kenny's voice sounds like at this point. And Casey is always like that. So it's like, I'm pretty sure she was just part of the last winning tandem. So it's scary to have somebody like that that's just sitting around, not really doing anything, not really saying much, but is definitely very capable of winning in a final, and nobody ever has a target on her. So where are we at? Fessy and Nelson having this conversation. More foreshadowing, of course. Fessy and Nelson having this conversation, and the conversation was about Fessy trying to tell Nelson, I've worked to get back in your good graces after selecting you to go in that hall brawl against me in Double Agents. And Nelson was kind of acting like, you're getting there, bruh. You're getting back in my good graces, but you aren't quite there yet. That's kind of the vibes that Nelson was giving off, but I wasn't really necessarily convinced, but we will see what happens later on. So Nelson says, my friendship with Fessy is like a roller coaster, and he was doing all this stuff. He was saying their relationship is a roller coaster. He said that he forgives, but he doesn't forget, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, y'all, I can't contain my excitement with that one. We get to the daily. The daily is called Double Trouble. The top three teams, of course, always Jay and Michelle are one of the top three teams. In the offseason, what's his name? Bananas has alluded to the fact that not every team was trying to win the daily because there was not a big incentive. Could be true. But Jay and Michelle seemed to be trying to win every week. And Anissa and Jordan seem to be doing well every single week. And the third team that did well on this particular challenge was Bananas and Nany. So the winning team is Anissa and Jordan. And I was hyped that it was Anissa and Jordan because I'm like, let us stir this pot, man. Because back in the day, the challenge used to be about revenge and pettiness. Everybody was like that. Every freaking buddy was like that back in the day. Now they're thinking about politics, friendships, relationships, future seasons. What if I do this? What if I say this to this person now, and then when I come back, this and this happens to me in another season? The old challengers used to live for tomorrow. And what I mean by that is they made decisions based on what they felt right now. The new challengers politic too much. And that's because they brought in all these shows, particularly Survivor and Big Brother, that are mostly based around politics. So they've brought that political brand of game into the challenge. I still like the challenge, don't get me wrong. And I actually like this season more than the last several seasons. But yeah, that's why I like somebody like Jordan, because Jordan is a wild card. Jordan doesn't play politics. So you already knew when you see Anissa and Jordan winning the daily, my guess was automatically Jay and Michelle are going down in there. So they get to their choices for the 4 teams for the deliberations. The 4 teams, they seem to pick them very quickly. Jay and Michelle picked them right away. They said no debate. Obviously, we're gonna put them in. They also picked Nelson and Nerys. They picked Fessy and Mariah, and they picked Horacio and Olivia. So those are the 4 teams. I liked the deliberation part where Jordan was like, people say that it's a problem. You shouldn't play the game emotional, but I play emotional, and sometimes you need to play emotional. I was all for the Jordan vengefulness and messiness, and I was all for the fact that the opportunity for this to happen was the very next episode. Now, I already know the people on challenge forums, challenge fan pages are going to be like, production made Aneesa and Jordan the winner because of the drama aspect. I don't know. I don't think so, and I wouldn't like to think so. But either way, I was happy that they won. I really was. I was excited. And Jordan and Aneesa basically tell Horacio and Olivia, like, we're not gunning for y'all. We're impressed with y'all. Y'all are a strong team, and we hope you come back if you go in. Fessy and Mariah. Fessy kind of was upset because of his relationship with Aneesa and basically saying, when we won, we could have thrown y'all in. But there was not really a big target on their back at that time. So I think that Fessy is more grasping at straws there and being a little on the sensitive side. Nelson and Nerys. Nelson has a hard time with this game because he plays too much with his heart. It's not emotional in a Jordan sense. Jordan is emotional in a sense of, you get me in the game and I'll get you back in the game. That's Jordan's emotional. Nelson's emotional is like, oh God, I'm torn between who I want to choose. This guy is like my good friend, and this is my new maybe girlfriend or love interest, and I just don't know what to do. We're gonna get to that. Yeah, so Fessy and Aneesa have a conversation, and Fessy also had a conversation later with Nelson where he was just like, you know what? I could have thrown them in. I didn't throw them in, but now I'm glad that Aneesa did that. So now I'm not going to feel any guilt if in the future I'm in this kind of power position and I decide to throw them in or throw her in. And Nelson is kind of agreeing with him there. We get to this elimination. And again, I was all for the pettiness. I was all for that petty look on Jordan's face and Aneesa's face. And Jordan and Aneesa get their revenge. And Jordan says something like, oh, this game is about redemption. So we went in last time. Y'all put us in. Now y'all are going in. And Aneesa co-signed it. They gave each other a fist bump. They were happy about this. And then Fessy and Mariah and also Horacio and Olivia pull two blank daggers. They each pull a blank dagger, so that leaves it for Nelson and Nerys. And you would think they should be excited about this, but Nelson, wear his heart on his sleeve, was like, oh man, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to make the choice. And everyone knew that he didn't want to have to make a choice. He wanted someone else to make the choice. For me, if I'm trying to win a game, I'm always going to want to pull the dagger myself and make the choice instead of being the one who doesn't pick the dagger and the other person makes the choice. I don't care. If there's some kind of political consequence to that, I will deal with the consequence later. I want to make sure that I'm safe. I want to pull the safe dagger. But Nelson wants to play a game where he doesn't have to make any hard choices, where he doesn't have to ruffle any feathers, where he doesn't have to make anyone upset. So they showed like a confessional of Bananas being like, this is the most dramatic selection of all time. So it goes to commercial, of course, comes back from the commercial, and then he selects to save Fessel. He selects to save Fessel after all that talk. After all that talk. I don't care, man. You have a chance to get revenge against a guy who intentionally chose to go in a hall brawl and F you up and get you out of the game. And he's a strong competitor. That's not to say that he couldn't have won and come back, but you take your shots. That's the difference between the old competitors to me from the challenge and the new competitors. Because I remember, for just to give you guys an example, in a way, and wait for my explanation, but in a way, CT was the Fessy of the previous generation. Now, I know you're going to look at it and be like, oh, CT was so good at the game. CT backed up his talk. CT didn't get 3 hall brawls in a row. You know, CT didn't refuse to eat in a final. All of this is true, but what I mean by this is that CT was a guy that was physically intimidating in his day. He's very physically intimidating, and people were like, I don't want to go against him, or I don't want him to make a final because he's going to be really good in the final and probably win in his case. So what they would do is they would throw as many people against CT as possible to try to get him out of the game. And what it seems that they do with Fessy is they don't even throw him in. They're so worried about throwing him in. And I'm like, you want to get out strong people, and you want it to, and the best thing to do actually is, if you have a chance for a team like a Jay and Michelle, they have a possibility in that kind of a challenge to take them out, because it's not like a hall brawl where Fessy is going to have an obviously huge advantage over a Jay. I would have taken the shot. I'm disappointed that Nelson didn't take the shot. It showed Nany and others being like, why didn't he take the shot? I like Nelson. Nelson's a nice guy. Nelson's a good guy. I don't feel like Nelson's trying to win for real with that choice. So anyways, we get into this elimination. It's this like spinning wheel and puzzle thing. And it looks like at the start that Jay and Michelle are doing pretty well. It looks like Horacio and Olivia are struggling a little bit. But then all of a sudden, Bananas and Jordan and Nany become very vocal in favor of Horacio and Olivia, which this is the second time this has happened to them that I remember. Because I remember when they went against Turbo and forget the name of his partner, but when they went against Turbo and his partner, all the rest of the house was also yelling for Horacio and Olivia. I think I understand, especially in the case of Bananas and Jordan, why they don't want Jay and Michelle in the game. But I'm thinking about something that Devin said, where Devin was like, unpopular opinion, I want Jay and Michelle to come back in the game because they're going to be a wreck. And I am thinking to myself, they would be a wreck and they would be public enemy number 1. Now, Horacio, I don't really know about Olivia, but Horacio stands a chance to do extremely well in the final. So helping them repeatedly because they have bigger and they're basically using them to take out some of their biggest enemies or biggest threats in the game. And I'm like, that might have short-term benefits, but I don't really know if they're gonna regret letting them. Well, I'm saying him because he's really a strong competitor. Letting him get to a final that way. Because who knows if he would have won, if they would have won either of those challenges without the house help. But when you get into a final, you're not doing these like head-to-head things, 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. So it's a lot different when you're just going from a beginning point to like an ending point, and then you're doing swimming, puzzles, eating, possibly camping overnight, lifting heavy. It's like an endurance competition, really, at the end, and he's seems to be one of the top guys for that type of thing. Like he seems to be built for that specific thing. I don't really know about his puzzle making ability, but anyways, I digress. That was like a whole other side topic that I was just thinking about. So with the help of the house, Horacio and Olivia win again. People have been debating about if they should make rules that you shouldn't be able to help. It's hard for me because this help thing has been happening for years. And sometimes I'm like, they shouldn't allow the help. And sometimes I'm like, well, it shows that your relationships in the game matter. So I'm like on the fence about changing the game in that way. But because I've seen this happen twice in a big way this season, it's making me feel like, yes, you should make a rule that the people on the sidelines are not allowed to say anything. And the people in that ring have to win or lose on their own. So Jay loses. Jay and Michelle lose. Everyone's happy, or not everybody, but especially Bananas and Jordan are happy. Jay is pissed. What did he say? I wrote this down. So Jay was telling them to shut the F up. And then he called everybody cheaters and said, I would wreck all of you. And I think he probably said more than that, but that's what they showed us. And Jordan was just like, they threw us in. I threw them in. They're out of here. I'm glad they're out of here. And Jordan was like, you got to think about the fact that you're going to be coming back, which I'm sure he was meaning like all this trash talking that Jay is doing after he lost. He's going to have to face that again if he wants to come back to the challenge. Because the challenge, unlike Survivor and unlike Big Brother, the same people keep coming back. So if you damage relationships with the people that you got, it's going to carry over. It's going to carry over into future seasons. And now that I've seen how everything has played out with Jay, I now understand why Jay sounds so pissed in all these different interviews that he's doing. Because just like Jordan said, this is not Survivor. The game of Survivor is much different than the game of the challenge. It really is. Really is. The challenge is like, the Survivor is like, how do I survive the night? The challenge is like, how do I survive like a 10-year career where I'm coming back once a year? Sometimes you lose the battle on the challenge and win the war, in terms of you make a move that is not necessarily the best move for you to make today, but it's a move that will set you up for either the future if you make it through on that season, or it will set you up on future seasons where they're like, you know what? You did this for me here. You've built up that credit with me. We saw something like that with Wes and Brad in All Stars, where Brad came to Wes like, yo, I feel like I'm doing all these different moves for your game, and what are you doing for me, whatever. And then Wes is like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to volunteer to put myself in. So Jay, man. I like Jay. Jay took out CT in a challenge before. Jay obviously is great at the dailies, but my friend, you got to work on the political game. Your political game is a mess. And Michelle, I am not even going to really talk about Michelle because Michelle's a train wreck. Maybe though, after a couple of seasons, Michelle will be a little. I listened to this podcast. Actually, it was the main challenge podcast. I think with Anissa and Devin. I don't remember if Tori was on that particular episode, but not Devin like this season's Devin, but the female Devin that was on the challenge. She was hosting with Devon. And yeah, Michelle was saying that at that particular point they were talking about last week, I think, and Michelle was saying that mentally she was in a really bad place in the game at that particular point in time. So yeah, the challenge really tests you in certain ways, and Michelle seemed to be somebody who wanted to be friends with everybody, but she was not making moves conducive to being in the middle, and they kept winning. So you're not going to keep winning and having to select 4 teams to put up for the deliberations and be friends with everybody. So, man, there's a thing that I keep telling people, and it's about Johnny Bananas. Johnny Bananas did not win the most challenges because he's the strongest competitor, the best endurance runner, the best swimmer, the best puzzle guy, the best person at rowing a kayak, the best with eating challenges, the best memory. Johnny Bananas won because he was the best at disconnecting the game from personal. Johnny Bananas didn't care about his friends being pissed about him. Johnny Bananas did not care about everybody loving him in the house. He just was like, I want to do the most that I can to make my specific alliance happy as long as I can, but I will stab somebody in the back if I need to. Evelyn. Yeah. So I have a respect for that. I would never play the game like the way he plays the game, but I would never have 7 wins, and that's why. Johnny Bananas was a savage. I don't know if he still is. He's so low key this season that I'm not sure. But yeah, anyways, Jay and Michelle sent packing. TJ says there's gonna be a surprise. I've heard a couple things about what that might be, but I'm not gonna spoil that. I'm getting annoyed with them showing this Jordan Nerys hookup in every week's trailer. It's been 8 episodes now, and it's been in multiple different trailers, and it still hasn't happened yet. It looks like it is finally gonna happen next week, but what annoys me is that it's kind of a spoiler because it told us that until we see that whole Jordan and Tori conflict between each other, it means that they're safe all the way up until that point at least. So I knew that neither of those 2 teams are going home until I see that. And it's been 8 episodes. So they kind of built it up like it's a huge drama between them. And I feel like it was actually really only a couple of days that they had that conflict. But of course, they're making it like a movie trailer and trying to make it as exciting as they possibly can. So that's the end of my week 8 recap. Again, I'm very happy that I got to see it on the actual night of the challenge. I love doing my challenge recaps, and I love this show. Show is it's my favorite in terms of the reality TV competition shows. I know a lot of y'all got to know me for my Big Brother recaps. It's a different world. That show is a different world. I love it too. but it's a whole different world to me. And I don't like the Big Brother off-season drama and the Twitter stuff. Not for me. Not for me. But that said, I will still be covering it as the new seasons come up. I think BB Canada is coming up soon. I'm probably going to try to cover that. And that's that. I hope that everybody has a great night. As always, thank you for being here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get notified of whenever I drop more great content. Have a great one.